Hey friends, in this video I'm going to go over a step-by-step process for some portraits that I recently painted for Time magazine. So they hired me to do 5 portraits and I had about a week to do all of them. Um, so at this point what I've already sent over are some preliminary sketches which got approved, and here I am drawing out the first of the 5 portraits. And when I start to sketch out these portraits, I try to block everything out and think about the planes that I see based on the skull before I get into the features. And in general, that's the way I think about drawing and painting. I think about broad shapes, broad edges. I think about the light source, and I tend to use the philosophy that this beginning process is a lot like building a house. So you sort of start with foundational lines and you sort of get into the details from there. Now, with each of these figures, I was provided some reference to work off of. And in addition to that reference, I like to look up a little bit about the person and try to find images on Google. I try to find interviews that might be out there where you can actually see them talking. And a lot of times when I'm working on a portrait and I don't know who the person is, just having a video or seeing how they talk, seeing how they move their mouth, seeing how they lean their head, things like that can actually help me capture the likeness a lot and make it seem as if I'm doing more than just providing some sort of realistic rendering. After I'm finished with the drawings, I spray them with workable fixative. This helps to seal the drawing, and you want to do this in a more well-ventilated area. So this is in a garage at the bottom of my studio. It's more well-ventilated than it looks. Then I lay out my palette, and I use the primary colors. I use a gray, and that's pretty much what I work with when I'm painting. And the first color I put down is kind of a theme color for the whole piece. So this color goes over the entire image, and what it helps to do is sort of unify the foreground and background colors and make the subject look as if it's lit by the same light, regardless of whatever colors I use on top. Here I am putting some of the darker colors into the clothing, and I've already outlined a little bit of this with a darker color that I'm going to use all around. So this is kind of re-establishing the lines. And then I shape out the shadows. I add in some of the areas that have more of the maybe classic flesh tone colors that you would see. And I'm kind of blocking in the areas that help to depict parts of the face that are in shadow. Here's what it looks like at this point. So it's kind of a weird midpoint stage. And as I'm working on these, I'm doing kind of all of the portraits simultaneously. And that kind of ensures that the look of each portrait will feel cohesive, and it won't feel as if I did one more detailed than the other. So regardless of the quality of the reference photo, regardless of the amount of time it takes to do each portrait, at the end they need to feel as if they, like I said, are very cohesive and work all together. This portrait here, I feel like I actually might have put down too bright of an orange. So as I'm painting over, I can see how the flesh tones are going to look by the time they're done, but it kind of feels awkward. And sometimes when you're painting, that awkward stage really lingers on for a long time. It's one of those things you just got to learn to roll with. There's kind of a roller coaster of emotion, I would say, when you're painting, where you have a vision of how things are going to turn out, and then as you paint, there's moments where things might seem discouraging. So you kind of have to learn to live with those awkward moments and sort of blast through them, kind of trust the process, so to speak. So now at this point, I'm putting details on this first portrait, which is the closest to being wrapped up. And some of the other ones are at various stages. So, like I said, I'm painting these all together, putting some finer details on some. On one of these last portraits here, I'm just getting to the line part of it, this portrait has actually 4 figures in it. So it's taking a little bit longer, but by the time it's done, it'll hopefully feel like it matches with the other ones. And I don't try to always work from dark to light, but there is something about getting these lines in early before doing the broader strokes. Um, I don't like to think of it as a coloring book necessarily, but I do think that once you've established those lines, it's just a little bit easier to go back in and feel the broad shapes out. And then if you need to go back over the lines again, then so be it. But here I am blocking in more shapes. And now we're getting to some of the more detailed parts of this 4-person painting. And I would say on average, if I'm doing a single person's portrait, it'll take about 2 hours from start to finish. So if you do the math on all of these, it ends up being a little closer to, I would say, 16 hours of painting total. And here are the final products. So what I end up doing is taking these images, I pin them on my wall, and I take photos of each one. I used to scan my work, but I've actually found that photographing them really helps to capture the paint well, especially some of the layers that are a little bit thinner. A scanner can sometimes go through that. And here's what they look like when they went into print. I didn't get a physical copy, but I guess if you go to the dentist, you might be able to find Time Magazine. Thanks for tuning in.